Hey, this is Mike, and welcome to another episode of my podcast. In this episode, I interview Lisa Jensen about her experience on my Thinner, Leaner, Stronger program. Now, I had done an interview like this a couple months ago with Jordan, and he had talked about his experience on my men's program, which is Bigger, Leaner, Stronger. And a lot of people liked it and asked if I would interview a woman about her experiences with weightlifting, flexible dieting, cardio, and so forth. And Lisa is that interview. And as you'll see, this isn't meant to be just a commercial for my program. What I really wanted to do is dig into the details. I wanted to find out from Lisa what worked well for her, what didn't work so well, what kind of adjustments did she make, what were the obstacles she ran into and how did she overcome them, and so on. And in Lisa's case, she's a working professional, she's a mom, and she even ran into an injury. So she definitely had some things she had to work around. So I think all of us can take something away from her story and from the interview, and let's get to it. Hey, Lisa, thanks for taking the time to come on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you because I did, it was a little bit ago, I did an interview with a guy named Jordan, who similar type of thing, but he was doing the guys program. So that got good feedback. So I thought it would be nice to talk to a girl.
Happy to represent.
So just so everybody can get a sense of you and your lifestyle and what it's like to be Lisa every day, can you just give us a synopsis?
Yeah, sure. It's busy. So I'm 37, married. I have 2 kids. I work full time, so I have a career in corporate finance. So I work, normal hours, 8 to 5-ish.
Right.
My husband travels quite a bit too for work. So between work and his travel and the kids, getting workouts in is a little challenging, very busy, but I've always been active, even as a kid. So I'm used to fitting it in, into my life. So yeah, that's me.
Cool. Yeah. I want to talk more about how exactly you go about fitting in because, I would say probably the biggest demographics for me are kind of split between the college crowd and then people in their late 20s, late 30s that, have a fully packed life, and they run into that problem of there's on like the meal planning and prepping side and then also on the exercise side. So I definitely want to hear about how you've been able to make it work. But before we talk about that, why don't you just tell us a bit about how things were previously before you had found any of my work and, followed my program and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. So the term skinny fat was completely accurate for me. So I was at about 125 pounds, 17% body fat. So not huge, pretty scrawny person. I was working out 5-6 days a week, mostly running.
Okay.
I had just finished my 3rd half marathon before I started this program.
Wow.
So, I was pretty active, running 20, 30 miles a week, eating pretty healthy, not a lot of protein. We'll get into that later, I'm sure.
Right.
You
can just talk about that now, really. So you're doing a lot of running, and do you know like approximately where your calories were? What did your macros look like?
I actually have no idea. And that was part of the problem. So
Sure.
I'm, working out 5 days a week, 6 days a week. My stomach started feeling kind of jiggly. So I thought, I'm doing something completely wrong. I'm eating wrong. Even though, I didn't eat red meat, so I eat pretty healthy, eat a lot of vegetables, but I'm Italian, so eat a lot of pasta, a lot of carbs, or I did anyway, I don't anymore, but so I was just frustrated. I was tired, I felt like I was constantly in the gym, constantly running, and I just looked bleh, like nothing exciting, definitely had no definition. So I see all these people online with all these muscles and abs, and I'm like, if I'm working out 5 days a week, I'm not looking like that at all. What are these people doing? They must be doing something right.
Yeah. And then you look, and then you also, like, a lot of them are showcasing their most, over the top kind of, if it fits your macros type of meals, then you're really confused. Like, what is this?
Yeah, exactly.
And so what were, in terms of like in the past, so how long had you been running for? Did you play sports growing up? Like, were you always into, physical fitness, or what's the history there? Like,
Yeah, so
was there a time previously where you're like, I just wanted to look like how I was, when I was whatever, 25?
no, I've always looked, pretty skinny, but no definition. Totally skinny fat my whole life. I played soccer growing up, so for like 16, 17 years. And in college, I was running, going to the gym, doing, what I thought was heavy weights, tossing around 15 pounds,
Yeah, yeah.
thinking I was doing the
Until it
right
kind of
thing.
just gets boring, basically. And like, all right,
Yeah,
I guess I'll stop
exactly.
now.
And then the older I got, if I felt like I had to put more and more effort in at the gym to look the same. So I wanted to do something different to kind of get over the hump.
Yeah. And so then how did you hear about me and my work?
Well, as I said, I knew I wasn't doing something right. So I started actually looking online, just Googling how to build muscle for women, how to get a lean look without looking like a guy.
Yeah.
And I actually came across Thinner, Leaner, Stronger on Amazon.
Oh, cool.
And I read the little synopsis and I thought, okay, this sounds legit. I'm going to buy it and, see what it's like. I finished it in like a day and a half. I loved it. I liked that it wasn't gimmicky. It was based on science. There was no BS. It was something I could understand and it made sense. So I thought I'd give it a shot.
Cool. And so then what did you kind of expect in the beginning there? Because I've worked with so many people now, and it's one of the more common things that it's just kind of cliche, but is just a roadblock for women, is the idea that you're going to get, you're going to touch weight and you're just going to end up getting bulky. Did you worry about that, or?
I totally worried about that. And I told myself that I would try it for 2 weeks. And if I hated it or I started to look bulky, then I would stop. So I kind of made a deal with myself. I gave myself a 2 week trial period. And 9 months, a year later, here I am. So
that's great. And what was it like? Was it uncomfortable at first? Because, obviously you were new to weightlifting.
yeah, I can't tell you how big of a tool I felt.
Yeah.
Walking into the gym, I didn't even know how to adjust the seat, on the benches. So I'm like trying to learn how to do things. I looked up a lot of YouTube videos, which actually helped a lot. But just trying to lift the bar, doing the bench press, I just felt super self-conscious.
Actually, that makes me, I'm going to be doing a whole series of videos on proper form and stuff. And actually, there's a lot of those out there, but I know that a lot of people that like my stuff would just like to see me explaining things. And there are certain things I would probably explain maybe better than some of the other videos that would come up for you to search. But that makes me think of, because I've heard, of course, the same thing from a lot of people, that a series of videos to go with it on like how to not look like an idiot in the gym probably would be useful as well.
That would be amazing. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then I realized that nobody was paying attention to me. Everybody's paying attention to themselves. They're all watching themselves in the mirror.
Yeah. They're
And
too
after
busy
the first
taking
week,
selfies and
yeah, exactly,
staring at
recording
themselves.
themselves, doing all that. So after the first week, once I got through all the exercises, I was like, okay, I can do this. I made it. I didn't drop a weight on myself. I survived the first week. So I kept going.
Nice. And so, okay, so you're like a couple weeks in now, and what are your thoughts at that point? Because that was your trial period.
I loved it. I was hooked from the beginning. It just made me feel like I could accomplish something. I know that sounds completely cheesy, but, just getting over that initial hump, I kind of felt proud of myself. And then I started seeing, it didn't take long. It took maybe 2-3 weeks to start seeing a difference. I could feel it in my energy level. I could start to see it in my muscles. As I said, I lifted, very light weights before.
Sure.
So I had some muscle, but, it didn't take a whole lot of time for the definition to start showing, which was, made it even more addictive, right?
Yeah, totally. And that's the case with if you are relatively lean and you just don't have enough muscle, then you're in a you're in a good place to see fast results. And I mean, similarly, I guess that everyone can see fast results. It just kind of depends on what those results are going to be, kind of depends on where they're starting. So in your case, you were starting relatively lean. You just didn't have a lot of muscle. So you see that change fairly quickly, because if you're doing things right and you're eating right, your body responds quickly, as you see. And then if somebody's overweight, then, if they can start out losing 2 pounds a week, maybe they don't, depending on how overweight they are, maybe they don't see that in the mirror as much as they would hope, or, maybe they're not going to see a dramatic transformation in 2 weeks, but they can see it on the scale. And similarly with guys, if guys start out too skinny. So that's the nice thing. And just to your point of just where it's just motivating, because even from a marketing perspective, if you want to, the best thing you can do to sell people on something is give them instant results. And it's nice that, if it doesn't take long, if you know what you're doing, to get instant results, or what feels like instant results if you've been grinding away for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. And
so fast forward now to today. So what have the results been like up until now? And how's it, not just in the gym, but you had mentioned, obviously there's spillover to other areas of your life. So how do things look now?
Yeah, so numbers wise, now I'm at about 122, 123 pounds and just under 14% body fat. So I lost a little bit of weight. Honestly, I didn't really want to lose a whole lot, if any. I just kind of wanted to transform what I had into muscle so I could see a little bit more definition. I actually like what I look like. For my age, my weight, I'm pretty happy. I definitely feel like I'm just starting and I have a long way to go. But things that I didn't expect happened, like I said, I was such a newbie at first, and I felt like everyone was staring at me. I went from that to, guys coming up to me asking, what I think about them doing, different things in the gym, like the T-bar row I was doing. I'd never seen anybody do it before. I had to look it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it and this guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, do you have a second?" I'm looking around like, is he talking to me? And he's like, "Yeah, what?"
You're like waiting for the line now. You're like, oh God,
yeah, I was like, okay, what do you got? Yeah. He's like, "No, do you just wrap your towel around the bar? What kind of grip do you use on that?" And I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. He's actually asking me for advice.
Yeah.
From that to, I had a guy come up to me after I was doing pull-ups and he's like, "I just want to let you know, for a scrawny girl, you sure are strong." And I was like, yes.
So you mentioned you were doing like 15 pull-ups? Did I remember that correctly?
Yeah.
That's impressive. That's strong.
So, things like that I just never would have expected. I did not really think about having a butt before, having legs before. I was always focused on arms and abs, but like body parts that I didn't know that I even wanted. I was like, this is awesome.
Funny. That's like the guy thing. Like, oh, I just want big biceps and I just want abs and I want big chest. Usually it's the other way around. Usually that's of like secondary importance to women that I speak with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so like scrawny that I just never thought I could have that. But now I do, so it's pretty cool. Things I didn't expect kind of happened that ended up being really cool. And like you said, it started to bleed into other areas, like, even with my kids, trying to instill in them, you can do hard things, put in the work now, you will get results. Just little by little. I got a big project at work about 6 months ago, and just that mentality of, constantly grinding at something, even if it's hard, you will get the results if you're constantly working on it, and, doing your best work. So it's definitely helped.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's, what is it? I think it's James Altucher, how you pronounce his name. He's a writer guy he's just paraphrasing what somebody else has said, I'm sure. But, he says that a lot of success is just showing up. There's truth in that. It's, if you just show up every day and put in at least halfway sensible work, then eventually you get there. And that's cool with your kids too. I mean, I can relate to that because I have a 4-year-old son. So setting a good example in that way is something that, is going to pay off for both of you later down the line.
Definitely.
I think especially in today's overly politically correct culture where it's like, oh, you finished 30th, here's a gold star.
Here's your medal.
I mean? Yeah. Yep. Like, no, you finished 30th. You suck. You need to get better. I think there's value in having to do hard things and not being coddled, but I guess that's a different discussion. But
That's a whole other conversation.
fitness though is almost therapeutic, I think, in that sense that it forces you to do hard things every day that you may not want to do, but you have a purpose for it. And, I think that just getting into that habit of overriding your momentary desires with your, long-term goals is just a valuable, it's almost like a skill that you learn, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
So what obstacles have you run into while on the program? Like, because, and this is also just an opportunity for me to get feedback, because I'm always looking for feedback. And, I've done several updates to pretty much all of my books, actually, and all of my stuff. And so I always like to hear with what did I not think of, basically, or what was just kind of unique to your situation that other people, were similar, where they might be having similar issues, and how did you overcome those problems?
Yeah, so I had the benefit of having some newbie gains with not having lifted weights a whole lot before.
Sure.
So I feel like I had that at first, then I plateaued some, and then I just started totally psyching myself out. So I was like, am I eating the right amount? Am I getting enough protein? I was reading articles online, and I was just confusing myself. So that's actually when I got your meal plan.
Oh, okay.
And I realized I was eating generally the right amount of calories, but I was not eating nearly enough protein. So I made the changes to my diet, and I mean, that made a huge, huge difference.
What differences did you see, like before and after fixing that?
Just like the definition of my muscles. I mean, it made a huge difference between that and the is it recharge? Is that what it's called? Yeah. So I started taking that too.
Nice.
And that just, I mean, I feel like my muscles like popped a little bit more after that. And I definitely felt like with the protein, I just looked leaner, in the mirror. I just could tell it made a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that many times. And the low protein thing is very common among women in particular. Just because I guess a lot of women I speak with are not really inclined to eating a lot of meat. So, and you can get enough protein if you don't really eat meat, but you have to really try. It's not easy to do,
Mm-hmm.
And then regarding making time for your workouts, so you mentioned earlier you're very busy and your schedule's packed, and you have 2 kids, and et cetera, et cetera. So how do you do that?
So I have been on the 3-day program.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do cardio on one day on the weekend. So my schedule at work varies. I mean, I have meetings, all day, like pretty much everybody else. I have the benefit of having a huge gym at work with personal trainers, and I mean, it's awesome. So I try to go at lunch a couple days a week. So I sometimes have to go in the morning. But I said my husband is he runs marathons, so he has to run, some whatever god awful number of miles he runs a week. So we're just constantly trying to balance, his time and my workout time. But you have to plan it. Like I look at my calendar every Sunday, and I look at my meetings, and I set a meeting for myself. I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, but I block off my calendar.
That's important.
And I set it for myself, and I didn't miss a single workout for 9 months. So it works, but, I obviously had to definitely work at it. I mean, sometimes I was in the gym at 5 a.m, sometimes, in the afternoons, trying to squeeze it in between meetings, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it just speaks to that it's more a matter of priority and just making the decision that I'm going to do this one way or another than anything else, I think.
Absolutely.
I mean, I similarly have, I get up at 5:30 and I have nonstop work and whatever. And I also have, a son and blah, blah, blah. So I totally know where you're coming from, where you're just like, this is how it's going to be this week. This is going to be the times. And the only thing that's going to stop me is like someone that I care about's in the hospital or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, so that's cool. Were there any other sticking points or anything that you ran into on the program?
Yeah, I got a case of wrist tendonitis. So trying to stay as strong as I possibly could with, an injury was tough. And honestly, trying to stay mentally strong
Mm-hmm.
was even harder. Still going to the gym, still working out what I could. My legs got stronger.
Yeah.
But now I'm back at, pretty close to the strength I was at before. But that was a pretty big setback. So, trying to get my brain around that and my mind right that this will end, this will pass. I just
Yeah.
need to keep at it, keep my nutrition right, which was, it's easy to just, okay, well, my wrist hurts, so I'm just gonna go eat lasagna. So trying to keep what I could control in line was kind of challenging.
Yeah. And how did that happen? Was it just like a freak type of thing or?
I don't know. I think it was doing bicep curls on a
Mm.
straight bar,
Oh, okay.
but it wasn't, one day suddenly it hurt. It was just kind of gradually over time.
Yeah, that's how it goes. I mean, I actually was running. Ran into some of that recently in my biceps tendon, where, I mean, I talked about it. Actually, I don't know if you heard the podcast, but I spoke with the sports doctor. I had him on the podcast, who has helped me. Now it's more or less gone, so I know how annoying that can be, where it just creeps up, and like you think maybe it's just a tight muscle or something that'll just go away, and then it doesn't go away, and then once it's there, it's like you just wonder, are you ever going to feel normal again?
Yeah, exactly. And it was actually your podcast about the ART.
Yep.
I went to a sports chiropractor and had some ART, and it worked like a charm.
Oh, hey, that's
So
great.
yeah, thanks to you.
Yeah, I tried quite a few things, and that was the one. So now I'm fully sold on it. I mean, also mechanically, it makes sense. It was just I hadn't heard of it. It's not very mainstream, I guess.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it before either.
Yeah. So with the injury, what were like mentally? How did you kind of just resolve to? How did you get over that point where now it's like precarious? Like maybe you're going to continue. Maybe you're just going to use this as an excuse to indulge the person in us that just wants to like sit on the couch and do nothing and eat ice cream.
Yeah, so I thought about just going back to running. I thought, this isn't for me. I'm too old for this. My
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
wrists aren't, and I just kept kind of like the 2 week thing. I'm like, I'm going to give it one more week. I'm going to give it one more week. And if it's not feeling any better after this week, I'm going to stop doing everything for, 3 weeks and let it heal. And slowly, week by week, I'm like, okay, it felt better. And as I was able to add on weight and exercises, my confidence that I was going to get better, came back.
Nice. And then where in the timeline did you get ART? And was that something that like finally kind of handled it, or?
Yeah, so this is actually pretty recent. So I injured myself in June. So it was like 4 weeks into the injury where I had the ART. And then I had maybe 6 or 7 sessions. After about 2 sessions, I could get back to doing, the big lifts, the deadlifts and the
Nice.
squats and the not at the same,
Yeah.
weights,
Yeah.
but so then after about 5, 6, now I'm probably about 90%, 95%.
That's great. And that's funny on the just I'm going to give it 1 more week or 2 weeks. Whatever. It reminds me of even on a individual task where if you're just kind of running up against a lot of internal resistance on something that's simple for me. I don't know. I picked this up in a book somewhere and it just kind of stuck with me. Is that if there's something I don't want to do, then I kind of trick myself by, okay, I'll give it 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, I hate doing this, then I'm just not going to do it. And then inevitably you get going on it and you're like, this isn't so bad.
Yep. That's exactly it.
So is there anything else that has kind of helped you stay motivated to kind of keep at it now for 9 months? And then, I mean, what are your plans going forward from here? Because it sounds like you've kind of maybe achieved a lot of your initial goals. So where do you go from here?
Yeah. So as far as motivation, I physically and mentally like need it now, which is bizarre. It's kind of gives me a mental release, a physical release, and every time I think, oh, I just don't want to go to the gym today. It's raining or it's cold. I just don't want to go over there. I always think I've never worked out and regretted it.
Yeah.
But I have not worked out and regretted it.
Yeah.
So, just trying take it kind of one workout at a time. The deload weeks actually helped a lot in the beginning. Now I kind of dread them. I look
Yeah.
forward to them and I'm like, oh yeah, if I can just make it to the deload week, and then they come and I'm like, oh,
I know they're
now I
boring.
have to wait a week. But it's just improved my mood, my sleep. If I come home stressed, my husband's like, did you not work out today? What's wrong with you? So it's just kind of, it's how I feel, right now. If I'm stressed, if I'm feeling anxious about anything, it definitely takes care of it. It's just weird that it's, worked out that way.
Yeah, which is to be expected. I mean, that's one of those things, just like many things in this space, where there is a lot of scientific research that says that, and a lot of anecdotal, where a lot of people say the same thing, but it just doesn't really sink in. It's not really real until you experience it for yourself. Like even people hearing it, if they haven't experienced that yet, they will at some point, and then it's one of those things that it sounds cliche, but it's there's a lot of truth in it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have believed it before either. So
I know. And so now, what are your goals from here? Because now, you're in great shape. So are there certain areas of your body that you're looking to improve now, or are you looking more to just maintain, or what's the plan?
no, I'm still pretty little as far as my physique, lean and muscular, but pretty little. So I still like the continuous challenge of, how strong can I get? Can I get to my next PR? So once I'm at 100% with my wrist, which I'm probably a week or two out, I'm gonna bulk a little bit probably, get some more muscle on me, through the winter, and then do another cut probably, late winter, early spring.
Nice. I like it.
I don't want to be huge, but I would like to be a little bit bigger, a little bit more defined.
Yeah, and as you'll see, there is no oops, I accidentally got huge.
Right.
Especially not for women. Women generally can gain muscle like pretty effectively, but most women start with so little muscle that's really one of the big differences between guys and girls with lifting, is that guys just start with a lot more muscle and strength. So if you put 10 pounds of muscle on the average guy, it just visually is more striking than 10 pounds on a girl, especially if the girl's starting skinny.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been great, and I'm out of questions. So is there anything else that you would like to say or add?
I don't think so. It's been a life changer. So if anybody's thinking about it, on the fence, give it 2 weeks, give it a try. If you hate it, stop doing it.
Yeah, I like that. And it's, hey, you can even get the Kindle version of the book, and if you don't like it and it doesn't work for you, you can just refund it, so you don't even pay anything.
Yeah, see, that's actually how I bought it. So
yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks a lot for being willing to do this, Lisa. I really appreciate it, and I hope people like it. I think they will. And definitely keep me posted on how everything goes. You can always, write anytime if you have any questions or whatever, especially with bulking. Anyways, yeah, I've written a lot about it. It's not complicated, but it's similar with cutting. You need to stick to your diet, or just the fat gain gets out of control, basically. That's the only caveat.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely.